Where's Simpiwe? Can you please bring the camera to the front so we can see the presenters? Okay. So our panelists here, we have Simpiwe, who's going to chair the panel, and then we have 3 presenters. The 2 are sign language interpreters, and the other one is a deaf interpreter. Those are our presenters today. So to save time, we're going to start with our 2 interpreters who are going to talk about their challenges, the opportunities in the field here in South Africa. So the first one is, her sign name is this one. Her name is Londiwe, and her surname is Matebula. Mapumulo. And she works for Pansalb, and she's a South African Sign Language interpreter. And Atia Asmal, she's a deaf interpreter, and she's the only deaf interpreter in this panel, but she has a lot of experience in interpreting. And then Andy Iswa, her surname is Gebashe. You all know her, she's a famous interpreter. She's on TV, she's on TikTok, she's on all those social media platforms. And Simpiwe Mkhize, she is a lecturer here at the university. She's in linguistics for South African Sign Language. Great. So the program will now begin with Londiwe, and she's going to talk about working in the government as an interpreter, her challenges and opportunities. And then the interpreter will stand where they are, because then the deaf can clearly see her. We can't sit and sign. It's not going to be clearly visible. So, apologies. So where is the pointer for the slides, please?
Greetings, everybody. Thank you to the program director, and who is Ms. Olga Blosser. And this is my sign name. My name is Londiwe. My surname is Mapumulo. I work at Pansalb in the Gauteng office. I work as a sign language interpreter. My presentation will not be long. It will be very short, focusing on the challenges and opportunities for interpreters in the government sphere. I got it. Technology. Okay, great, we're back on track. I'll be short, I'll not be long. South African Sign Language has now been made official, as we all know. So that means now it's already official, and I hope that the government departments, they will appoint full-time sign language interpreters. I'm hopeful. It will not benefit the interpreters only, but it will also benefit the deaf community. Because they will make sure that the government departments in the future, when they can access them. Because prior to this, there's been a lot of barriers. There were few interpreters in government departments. So I'm hopeful now they will appoint more interpreters. I'll click, okay. And now we'll focus on the Act, the Constitution of South Africa. Act number 148, that was approved in 1996, Act of 1996. Pansalb's Act number 1, of 1995. But it was amended also in 1999. The use of an official language. Okay. The Use of Official Language Act number 12. I will focus more on the challenges and my experience while working with the government departments. I will go in details the challenges that I have experienced in government departments. Their biggest challenge is that there's not enough service providers of sign language because there's few sign language interpreters. Again, another challenge is that the staff that work at the government department, they don't understand the roles of an interpreter. For an example, a hearing person who works at a government department, for an example, maybe they want to communicate with a deaf person, they will always say, yeah, interpreter, you must tell him that I am saying this, which is wrong. You must communicate directly with the deaf person. Now, that was the issue, that the staff that work in the government departments, they are not sensitized on the role of a sign language interpreter. Next slide, please. The challenges, my experience on challenges with the government departments is that the issue of payment and salary level scale, that is a big challenge because the government departments, when they appoint a sign language interpreter, their salary scale is not the same. It's different. Some, they start at level 7, some they start at level 8, so that is the challenge. The other challenge is that the government department, another challenge is that the government department, the sign language charter,
Page number 8.
chapter 8, the sign language charter, page 8 of the sign language charter, which clearly states that professional sign language interpreting and translation services should be readily available. But they don't follow that. The government departments themselves, that is another challenge. Next slide, please. Which one is it? Okay. Another challenge that we have is that the staff that work in the different government departments, they believe that the sign language interpreter is a representative of the deaf person, but that's not the truth. Interpreters are neutral, they're just there to interpret. The deaf person is there on their own. It doesn't mean that me as a sign language interpreter, I'm a representative of a deaf person, but that is the misconception. That's what they assume there at the government department, to say you are representing them, you are representing the deaf person. And another one is that, another big challenge that I've experienced before, and can I tell you that I've experienced it so many times before working at other departments, is that I am there, I'm interpreting, the hearing person is also there, they're talking, and I'm doing my job, I'm interpreting everything. Once when I'm done interpreting, later on, I've experienced it, I'll share with you my personal experiences. And then later on, once I'm done interpreting, my manager, the hearing person, my manager, and then will ask me, you are done, I said this and this and this and this, why haven't you done so and that, this and that? And now the hearing person will say, I never said that. I never said something. It's the interpreter. The interpreter interpreted wrong. This is not what I said. But I was interpreting. I can't defend myself. I feel so embarrassed because now the person is saying they never said that. and it's the interpreter that was wrong. So that's my past experience. Yeah. And now another challenge, now that we are done with the challenges, and now we will be focusing on opportunities in this industry as a sign language, as a South African sign language interpreter. One of the opportunities that are available is, I hope that more interpreters will be appointed in government departments. I'm very hopeful with that. And I also hope that sign language interpreters, I hope to see them more to continue servicing and also making sure that they develop their skills, they develop their sign language interpreting skills. The next one. I hope that South African Sign Language interpreters, they continue to develop their skills, the skills that they have, so that they can make sure that the services they render of interpreting develops as well. They must make sure that it also benefits the deaf community. Next page, please. The next one. Okay. I hope. Okay, sorry. Now we are focusing on the recommendations. The government departments, when they appoint sign language interpreters, I recommend that government departments appoint sign language interpreters, and they have workshops to create awareness on the issues of South African sign language interpreting, professionalism, also the role of an interpreter. We need more workshops on that. The next one, I would recommend that, and I'm hopeful that the government departments will have a standardized salary level scale. The next one, I hope that South African Sign Language Charter, the workshops on awareness will continue. I hope that Pansalb will do more workshop on the SASL Charter. But also they need to be specific more on Chapter 8, the pledge, Pledge 8. And the last, before I close, the issue of SASL, of South African Sign Language interpreting in government departments, it is a challenge, and it's a big challenge. But if we work closely in partnership, we share our experience and knowledge, we can overcome those challenges. Next slide, please. Thank you guys, thank you. I'm done with my presentation.
Thank you so much, Londiwe. She works with me, she's my interpreter, so I work with her. So she started just 4 months ago. Is it 4 or 5 months? Yes, it's 5 months ago. We worked together. Thank you so much for your presentation. So you've already heard about the challenges of interpreters. So many of you think Londiwe is deaf. No, she's hearing. She's a hearing person, but she can sign, okay? Don't be confused whether she's deaf or hearing, no. But now we are aware of the big challenges that South African Sign Language interpreters face, and we'd like to actually minimize those. And how can we minimize those? By workshopping, by actually workshopping about the charter, working with our stakeholders, making them aware of the 8th pledge, and also by contacting the Pansalb office. And we'll also go to the departments and explain more about the sign language challenges, and to minimize the challenges that interpreters face. Also, encourage them to improve their skills, to further their studies. So thank you so much, Londiwe, for your presentation. Our next presentation will be Atia Asmal. So she's also an interpreter, deaf interpreter, and she's also interpreted for the president, for government departments, for events. She travels a lot. So right now she will give a speech. Her speech theme will be freelance interpreting. So we hand over to Andiswa. Sorry, I thought it was Atia. It's Andiswa who's going to be speaking about freelance interpreting. Sorry, I'm waiting for my real presentation. That is not the one. That is an incorrect one. Not that one. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter. While we're waiting for the presentation, I'm just going to start with my presentation, just in awareness of time. Okay, so I'm an interpreter. As Olga said that the interpreter, sorry, not TikTok, I'm not a TikTok interpreter. Producer, oh, sorry, producer. All right, so I'm a producer. All right, so my background is I am a freelance interpreter. I'm also a producer. I'm a TV producer, so I'm involved with sign language broadcasting. So now the issue about challenges of freelancers as well as the opportunities that we have. So more in the media space, all right? So there are opportunities, good things are happening. So when you freelance, when you're a freelance interpreter, there are plenty opportunities, good opportunities. You get to learn new things. You get to know new things. Some people pay for the knowledge, and that's a good thing. When you freelance, you also get a lot of information. So freelancing also has
Okay. Freelancing. You are in a advantageous position because you get access to information. When you, as a freelance interpreter, normally I don't just stay at home, because if I was at home, I wouldn't have had that access to information. So it's an opportunity as well for me to learn, to grow, and to grow each other. So when you are a freelance interpreter, you benefit a lot. And another thing is that you learn different ways. Because some other environments, they're very stressful. And then you feel like, oh my God, I can't do that. I don't have enough skills. My skills are inadequate for that. But the more the years go by, the more you gain experience. You also learn how to develop soft skills, how to develop talking, like how to express yourself. Anything, you learn that through that. So me, as an interpreter, what's important is that the culture, I have to embody the culture and build a relationship with it. Because as an interpreter, you have a crowd that you are servicing to, and now when you're talking, you get to learn a whole lot of different things. For an example, you learn about HIV and AIDS, you learn about different communities. What focus on? All right, another challenges. Okay, oh my God. So for an example, sign language, the challenges that you'll have, you know that we have a South African issue where they say, white man in the river? There's a crocodile, the crocodile river. So now if you're in a group, the crocodile will not be able to bite you because you're in a group. So we need interpreters also be like that. You don't have to be an individual. But there's no unity in interpreting. And this way, can you please sign slowly? Thank you.
I apologize. We'll just continue from where I was, and I think if some have read what was written, would have followed. I know it's very hard to voice for a signer. It's very hard to invoice for somebody who speaks, and especially to hear, because you know what you're saying, and you just say, guys, just read. Just read. So I I do apologize for that and for the interpreter to be put in that position. I was explaining that there's an African proverb that says, cross the river in a crowd and the crocodile won't eat you. That's the African proverb, that one of the biggest challenges as interpreters, we work in silos. And because of that, there's a lack of growth and there's a lack of unity, even in shared skills of there are certain things that I might know that will grow another interpreter, but because we're not regulated, it's a whatever. Everyone is doing whatever that they wish to do. And another thing that we lack as freelance interpreters, it's just there's no desire to grow self. In reading, in research, it was said earlier that we think interpreting starts here and ends here. We don't bother ourselves in doing research. And I see this more and more since I've moved into the production field, that we'll have an interpreter, we'll give them a research pack. They'll come back, they haven't read it. And you can see it in how they sign it, because you can't interpret what you don't understand. And that is the biggest problem, and that causes a user to suffer. They don't get proper information because I was lazy to read. I took it as I'm just getting paid and that's it. There isn't anything that I, as a freelance interpreter, says, let me go and educate myself. And so I asked a couple of interpreters from different provinces the different challenges. And most of them did say that they don't get prep material, which is fine, but still, if you have read a background of anything, you will be in a better position than you not knowing the subject matter at all. Lack of time. Most interpreters who come outside of universities don't have interpreting skills. They have their theory, they have their qualification, but they don't have the interpreting skills. And they are still expected to go to the community and socialize after studying for 4 years. And only then, after 2-3 years, they'll be able to interpret, like interpreters who've been experienced. If Olga can help me with that, but I'm going to continue. Another challenge that most interpreters are facing is that government departments are asking them to be SATI accredited or be SATI members. I'm not sure if we have legal experts here, if that is even legal, because if I'm not a SATI member, then I'm at a disadvantage. If I don't have a SATI accreditation, then I'm at a disadvantage. One interpreter even said it's like saying, I need to be an ANC member to get a tender. That it is such an unfair requirement, especially if it's done by government and it's done by deaf schools and some universities as well. And I'm not sure if that should be taking place. But currently that is the requirement that is needed for sign language interpreters to be affiliated with SATI. Interpreters expected to be business savvy overnight. Most people now, if they're going to be asking for an interpreter for their service, they have to have a company. And most interpreters don't have business service skills. They need to know how to know their competition, how to run a business, how to do this. And because of when the payment comes 3 months later, they are at a back foot. And because most of them don't come from privileged backgrounds, they're not a big established company. Yes, they're not a big, yes, they are not a big company that can run and still be able to pay interpreters while waiting for those 3 months, 4 months. And this does not only happen in government, it happens in universities. And some interpreters do want to study further, but because of the financial challenges, they aren't able to do that. But that still doesn't excuse for you to go to the internet and read and know information while you're still waiting to be admitted formally. Mental health. Most interpreters went through depression, especially during lockdown. Yes, I am on mental health. The slides there are doing their own TikTok. Maybe I should be a TikToker. After all. Yes, thank you, Ms. Olga. Mental health, it's very important for interpreters. And because we also don't have a support space where you can go and offload, there's a lot of stressful things that happen, or sometimes you misinterpreted and someone went to jail. And it's your fault, and there isn't a place for you can go and debrief and do all of those. Those are the biggest challenges. Another one even said, as the young people will say, it's a lot, it's a many, it's a lot being a sign language interpreter. And you're expected to be the HR yourself, you are the business yourself, and I know I'm rushing through this. And another challenge that we face is that there is the race issue that sometimes we overlook. And when we have that privilege, we don't know how to balance that. If I'm walking in a room with a white interpreter, whether junior for me or not, automatically that white interpreter is superior than me in the eyes of the audience, with the black audience as well. It's not what it's done by white people, no, it's done by black people, on black people. You are already assumed that you know less because of your race. And you're expected as a black interpreter to know all the black languages for a lack of a correct terminology. Because I'm black, I'm Nguni. And my home language is not even any spoken language. My home language is SASL. But I'm expected to know Chivenda. Because why? I'm black. But a white interpreter is not expected to know isiZulu, yet they're South African. So there's that underlining things that we don't know where to go and deal with them. My time is almost over. I'm going to go on the size. Am I going back? How do I go forward? Oh, okay. No, not that. Okay, this one was a burning issue. The size of the screen. This is a perfect example today that if you're watching on screen, my size is nice and big. The spoken language is elevated, nice, clean. SASL, green screen. TV 101, we don't show green on screen, but we have green screen. And it does affect the complexion, especially if you're dark skin. You know, it does change your complexion, but it is that the lighting of interpreters, it's a problem all the time, which affects the clothes that you wear, the makeup. I know that most interpreters would say you don't have control, and sometimes, yes, you do give up. The amount of makeup that they put on your face can be so much that it's equivalent to eating gum for a person who's speaking. You're eating gum and you're talking. When you have excessive makeup, that's how it looks like. And then, just another thing, there was an interpreter from Newsroom Africa who apologized yesterday for interpreting wearing very colorful traditional stuff. And that was not the first time. It keeps happening. When do we tell people this is our profession? You know, and not be told by a person who doesn't know the language, doesn't know the profession, that I want you to look like this. I'm a producer. I know how it works. As an interpreter, you still have the right to say, no, I can't wear this. In order for me to work, I can't do this. We can't blame it on a director and a producer. We need to take accountability. I know it sounds like I'm preaching. I promise you, I am not. And there are opportunities, my time is over. There are opportunities, the industry is opening up, where awards are being interpreted. And we saw with Miss South Africa being interpreted for the first time, it was done, not the best, but it was a start. But it doesn't mean that in this room we can't send comment and advise on how better to do it, because sometimes when you are the only person in the room and you are overpowered by directors and producers and what not, you can't win. It needs all of us. 10 minutes is not enough for this. I just thought I should say that, because there's so much to say. And starting by fixing this, sign language needs to be elevated in the same status as spoken languages. We still can't have that, and we say it is an official language. Thank you very much. There isn't necessarily correct color if the lighting is perfect, but green is not necessarily preferable for a dark skin. It doesn't work.
Okay. Thank you so much, Andiswa. I know that you are very emotional, and you are emotional. Okay, move. Is it better now? Can you all see me? Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Andiswa. I know that I will sign again so that people can hear me. Thank you, Andiswa. I know that you are very emotional when you talk about today, but today, like interpreting, it's very true. All the pointers, everything that you have spoken about here is reality. When we talk about sign language interpreters and sign language, the requirements that are there, I'm sure that on your speech for today, I'm sure that you hope to cover so many things, but yes. But the issues, we still need to discuss them more. And another thing is that interpreters, the background, it also does have a criteria, right? We need that. We need to develop that criteria. And also your presentation, I know that I've cut you off, I've taken over because, yes, Athia must come through. And then, yeah, thank you, Athia. I will sign to the mic. I'm teasing you guys, I'm teasing you. I don't need the mic. Hello, everybody. I am honored to be here today. Where's my PowerPoint? Can someone just show my PowerPoint? Who's responsible for the technology? Danko. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here. I am a deaf interpreter. I am not yet qualified, though. I'm still in training to become a deaf interpreter. But what I do is that I do go into some places, and in summary, sometimes I look and be like, oh my God, I am not really qualified. So I go with my partner, my team interpreter, and also being involved at Convo. It's my responsibility to manage the services of an interpreter, to know the interpreter that we appoint for our deaf clients, that when they make their calls, the interpreter is qualified. Prior to this, in general, interpreting, the important thing for a deaf person is that it doesn't matter if it's a deaf or a hearing person, they must know sign language, right? The sign language structure, the grammar, etc. And also here in South Africa as a country, we have different dialects. We have different ways of signing. So you need to make sure that you align to that. You can adapt to that. Another challenge is that I think before my learned colleagues have elaborated on the issue, we don't have enough interpreters in government departments. We don't have them. And again, the interpreters that are there, they are not enough because there's not enough training. And then now in South Africa, we have approved sign languages as the 12 official languages. It means that we need to be qualified and accredited. That is very important that you need to be accredited before you do that, but we don't have enough. And also again, a second thing is that as a deaf interpreter, when you get an accreditation, qualification, and now people will be like, oh, now you're a deaf person, now you can sign, but where are your qualifications? Where is your training? We don't have that. The trainings that accommodate deaf interpreters. Also, most of the universities, they focus on hearing interpreters, but what about the deaf interpreters? You, as the training for a deaf interpreter and a hearing interpreter are different, and it should show in the academia. So now how you train a deaf interpreter and how you train a hearing interpreter, and the methodology is not, the methodology that is used is for them to work together. And again, to interpret, me as a deaf interpreter, this is how I work. My first language, a sign language, I use sign language structure, I've got the nonverbals, the facial expressions. I can sign, I know how to sign also. I can meet the way the other deaf person is signing. They can understand me, I can understand them, I can adapt into their way, and because I understand their culture, I understand that how they are and how I am. For me, as a deaf interpreter, I can do that very well. I can work in and align with the deaf client. Where else, for an example, now I'm signing everything and she will be interpreting. The same interpreter will have that burden because she'll be able to hear what is being said and feed it to me. And for me, as a deaf interpreter, I must adapt and align to the deaf client's needs. So the way that I'm signing, I will hear what they are signing and readapt and then so forth. But because internally I'm embedded with the deaf culture, so I will not have that stress that we'll have when in a working environment, because me and the client, whatever that they were saying, I'll be able to understand it. I also want to ask, why must a person appoint a deaf interpreter? Because we do have a hearing interpreter, they're good enough, but now I want to change and also try to explain why you need a deaf interpreter, you see. For example, now the world is changing. The UK, America, Europe, they're using deaf interpreters because they know that they will give better interpretation when they work alone with a hearing interpreter. Because a deaf person can do the job. They can do that. It doesn't mean that they can do better than that, because it's my language as a deaf person. I understand it. It's embedded in me. As a deaf interpreter, I'm better skilled. I can do the same job as a hearing interpreter. We are equal. Now we are lobbying to say that we need to view and change that. We need to appoint more deaf interpreters and so that the deaf interpreters can work together with the hearing interpreters. Yes, in a situation can happen whereby an important event whereby you need to go to court, there are the deaf people that are coming in, and then now you must sign. Some people don't know sign language, but I can be able to communicate better with them than a hearing. The role of a deaf interpreter, as I did explain before, it is my culture, I know it better, how to do things in a deaf way, the deaf culture. And I can support a deaf person in a way by trying to adapt my way of signing into their way. Also, the hearing interpreter, I will get information from them and make it accessible better to the deaf client. And the deaf interpreter will voice. In summary, yes, here in South Africa we have interpreters, we have deaf interpreters that are very skilled but are not qualified. We only have one interpreter who has went into university here at Wits and studied, and now is a qualified interpreter. Now they are there at the World Federations. So in other places we also have deaf interpreter workshops, training, deafs are training. They do have, and now we know how to work with hearing interpreters in order to give the best service. And now we need to review that, the deaf interpreters, we need to encourage them so that they can get more training. We need to encourage them because here at the university, they can also add and get qualified interpreters, deaf interpreters. They also teach translation. The universities are there, the colleges are there, DEFSA is also here, so that here deaf interpreters and hearing interpreters can work together. We want to establish a program like that. So my time is not on my side. Another important thing is just to see that, yes, we see that some of the deaf interpreters, they work with interpreters. For an example, Andusa has their own company, they can call and say, come work with me. Now working with them, it means that now they're empowering the deaf person when they go to the doctor or court. I see that, and we need to empower more deaf interpreters, because as deaf people, we can do it, and it's their job. We can do an outstanding job, interpreter's mistake, sorry. Okay, now I'll be brief here just to think again on what we have said here today. We need to promote deaf interpreters. They need to be involved in this profession. And also, we want deaf interpreters, but deaf interpreters are very expensive, because now you need to pay 2 people for one. Now, a lot of people are like, I can't pay a deaf interpreter and a hearing interpreter. So now if they pay me, the deaf interpreter, I must pay my feeder. So now it's 4 interpreters the whole day, because it's 2 and 2, and that's quite expensive. So now they're like, better we don't include the deaf interpreters. Let us just involve the hearing interpreters, because it's cheaper and easier. So now we need to focus on deaf interpreters, involve them some more, get them into university training, because this is a way that the deaf interpreters and the hearing interpreters can collaborate and succeed. Like my learned colleague had said, that the challenges are there. Let us change the challenges and make them opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atia, for your great explanation of how deaf interpreters work. And we're more aware now of how deaf interpreters work. What does deaf interpreting mean? How they work with a hearing interpreter? Why add a hearing interpreter with a deaf interpreter? And also how South African Sign Language works. And deaf are more aware, they understand the culture, they understand South African Sign Language, so more than hearing people. So, sorry, I can't see her clearly. So the characteristics of a deaf interpreter, we need to clarify more, because deaf people will understand a deaf interpreter more than a hearing interpreter. So we need to understand, why do we need 2 interpreters? We need to understand what's the role of a hearing interpreter and a deaf interpreter. So a lot of people don't understand that, but it's our responsibility to understand the role, to know who they represent, because deaf interpreters represent the deaf. So now my question to Londiwe. So my question to her is, now we've got interpreters who are appointed at the government, and they come in at different salary scales, a level 7 or a level 8. So when the government appoints an interpreter, how do they decide this is a level 7 or a level 8 salary scales? Do they assess you? Is it dependent on your qualifications? What is the actual process? I need to understand that, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Maybe let me just repeat again. Let me start again and explain the challenges that we have. Is that what I meant was that government departments, if they appoint a sign language interpreter for full-time position, I did identify that some of the government departments, they don't appoint interpreters under this, the same salary level scale. Some, they appoint them under level 7 salary, some under level 8. So what I was saying is that, what I was recommending is that government departments, all of them must work together and agree to say, for a sign language interpreter, when we appoint an interpreter for the first time in a government department, this is the salary level scale. And it should be the same all across the government departments. But we have not yet established a plan of how we can enforce that or how we can bring that forward, but we hope that it will be included in the future discussions with the department, so that all of them can have a first starting basis of which salary level scale. Because some of them are 8, some of them are 7, some of them are 8, some of them are 7, and this is quite confusing, because what makes this one a salary level 7? What is the criteria for making such a decision? Why did this department decide that it's a level 8 salary? So we need to work on that, because it needs to be uniformed all over the government departments. And so that was my point, to say those government departments, all of them, they need to establish a criterion whereby they say, when we appoint an interpreter for the first time, we appoint it under which salary level? Because now it's not consistent. I hope I answered your questions, Mpiwe.
Yes, I think Thelma is the perfect person to answer that question. Thelma, please, can you advise us about that? So my question, I think we have the same problem. When an interpreter is appointed at a certain scale, how do they measure? What process do they follow to verify that interpreter as a level 7 or a level 8? What criteria do they follow? What are the regulations? Is it a government process? How does it work?
I'm not 100% sure why I'm asked to respond to that question, but I can only imagine that it would depend on the person's years of experience, the level of qualification. So I think that may determine on which salary scale the person is appointed at. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm unable to respond factually to your question.
Okay. Can I add? So I just want to add to Londiwe's issue about the government departments. So we need to establish the criteria to know which qualification an interpreter is supposed to have. Also, freelance interpreters, we need to know the rates, the different rates that they actually can charge. For example, if you have your own private business and you decide to charge for 1 hour, maybe 800 Rand, or another person decides to charge another amount, the rates are so different. We need to have a standardized rate for the characteristics of that job. That specific job needs to know that this particular job has this specific rate. And also we need to see what rate, what skill level is that interpreter at, and what rate can they charge. SILPC, we know that they we know that they have all, for example, I'm a qualified interpreter, my salary will be a little bit lower, but this one doesn't have any qualifications, they're not accredited, and they have a higher salary. So we need to actually standardize the entire rate system. That's my opinion. Do you have any questions in the audience? Yes, I see a hand up over there. Please, miss. Sorry, I forgot your name, but yes, I see your hand is up right there. And the second one is right there at the back. Is our time still fine? Hold, please, for the interpreter.
My question, I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment, adding to what was asked now. Why is there a difference between the sign language interpreters and me, myself, for an example? The entry level for us is level 5. Why is there a huge difference? Level 5 and 7, and level 7 is a senior interpreter. Why is there a huge difference between the two? And secondly, I have a question. Somebody mentioned workshops. Is it possible for us to have a unified workshop where we can learn and have discussions amongst each other as interpreters? Thank you.
Great question. Can I answer? Okay, so the issue of the entry level in government, honestly, I think that issue involves HR. So if we maybe can have a meeting, all of us here maybe organize a meeting and maybe have people in that meeting from HR who can answer that question. Because remember, the person responsible or the department responsible for appointment of government staff is HR. So they need to be involved in these discussions. So that's my maybe they can actually give us a clear explanation about, but we as interpreters, we cannot answer that question. All right, great. Thank you very much for your answer. Sorry, Mpho there has a question. She's an interpreter. She has a question or a comment.
Okay, thank you very much, all the panelist member. So I think before I can even ask the question, I just want to say, especially with the interpreters, knowing the kind of work that we do that is so difficult, I think the first question that I want to ask would be, why would, as an interpreter, without really discriminating you or anything for your choice, in this context, because we have so many hearing people and I think we have 2 deaf people, why would you choose to sign instead of talking? Because that really disadvantages the interpreters. And knowing the kind of work that we do, including yourself as an interpreter, you know how difficult it is to do a voiceover. Now, doing a voiceover for a hearing person or a hearing interpreter, it's more difficult than you can imagine. So that's the first thing that I want us to consider, maybe even in the future. The second one that I want to ask, with regarding panelist members and so on, Andy Soy gave an example of an interpreter who apologized to say they are so sorry about African attire and so on, which is not according to the code of ethics, which is taken, it's noted. But can we also, in this kind of context, let's also look at empirical evidence in terms of the articles and so on, because the same code of ethics that we are looking into, for me, I still feel those code of ethics were adopted from the European perspective. We are living in South Africa, and we celebrate things like heritage and so on and so on. As interpreters, are excluded from that. And I think that also needs even the deaf people or our consumers to engage in issues like that without jumping a gun and putting a finger at another interpreter. Let's engage. Things are really changing right now. And we cannot say, by me putting in this one accessory would impede the deaf person. So we would want to engage and bringing in empirical evidence and bringing articles really to say, is that really that if I'm wearing any traditional symbol, will it impede our deaf audience from hearing what we're saying? I do understand the code of ethics, but I still say they need to be reviewed and they need to be designed in such a way that they accommodate African interpreters in an African context, working in a multilingualism context. That's the first thing. Another one that I want to highlight that I've heard Andiswa many times highlighting is the issue of the green cloth. And she has also highlighted that even for SABC. Can we have an empirical or an article stating to say for media interpreting, these are the do's and don'ts, without really, because if you're gonna bring your own, I bring my own, somebody else bring their own of what is acceptable and not acceptable, then we're all gonna work in silos and there's no research that is being done. Can we also bring in, or somebody, a researcher or some sort of document that we can bring along? I don't want to be long, thank you very much.
Great. So I completely agree. I completely agree with you. We really need evidence. So we need criteria. So also, who's going to do that? Should interpreters get together? Should deaf people be discussing this and give it to maybe the interpreters? Why? The code of conduct, we need to be clear. It's not about deaf, it's not about the interpreters, it's about the deaf person. Do you understand? The client is the deaf person. So the deaf need to decide what's best for them and then give that to the interpreters. So it's about South African deaf in the South African context. So many of the interpreters, their experience is that whenever they wear African clothes, they tell them, that is not, we do not accept such attire. But it's my responsibility as a deaf person to inform the interpreter whether or not I accept it, not other people. So the problem is that this code of conduct, these criteria, doesn't have evidence or any support. Should I be answering that question? Because those questions were directed to me. Yes, Andiswa, maybe you can respond to the question since it was directed to you. I think, Alice, our time is up, right? Do we still have time? Can we continue? Okay, we can continue, great. Okay, so we're just gonna have one more comment from you, and that's the last one, and then we're gonna wrap up.
I don't think one comment is because a lot of questions were directed at me. So one, the question of, yes?
Sorry, if you want to answer, you can please meet her privately.
100%.
There's more time for answers later, but right now, please just
100%.
one comment.
I was asked why did I choose to sign instead of speaking. I was asked by the university to sign. It was not my first choice because I know how difficult it is to voice for a signer, especially myself. I'm a native signer. I don't sign and mouth in English or accommodate a hearing language. I go full on as ASL. So that is me. It was not, I hope Mpo is listening. So it was not putting an interpreter at a position that will embarrass them on purpose. And before lunch, I even went to the interpreters and said, this is what the easiest thing is, just to read and follow, because I knew how difficult it is. Like I've said, I spoke about the mental health issues, that it's a very stressful environment. So I will never do what I want not done to me as well. So that's one. And then number two, I am privileged to be in the media space. So I am now doing a lot of TV productions. And we are seeing that the green is not necessarily working as opposed to when you use another color, especially on a dark-skinned person. So I do agree that we do need a workshop to do all of that, because somebody decided for us many years ago that green is the color. But over the years, technology changes, the type of cameras that are being used are changing. You know, and anyone who studied Camera 101 knows that green screen shows something that is not green, but something else other than green. But we can have a workshop that goes in length with that. I'm open to that. I'm always for working together. You know, what was the other question with time? Paul? The attire, yes, you are right, Mpo. I 100% agree with you. But in the meantime, since we don't have that workshop of training our consumers, which is deaf people, that wearing these earrings is wrong, you know what I mean? They're going to send complaints, and they send these complaints to
to Pansalb, and they have to act on it. So in the meantime, let's not wear it. There will come a time where Luta continua and we can be pure Africans. But right now, we are being controlled by a certain system. So how do we then change? It's unfortunate that I didn't finish my presentation. It was not to diss the interpreter, but because that apology was made public, it was a public knowledge. I didn't even mention a name, to say it was not the first time happening. How do we then balance that and accommodate the Africanism and SASL and a system that was given to us, not ours? I thank you.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So truly, time is against us. Maybe time for one more comment or two more comments. Look, you're our boss. Okay, there's no time. All right. I'm gonna close up. Our time is up. We're gonna wrap up now. So if you want to question the panelists more, you can go meet them personally and you can ask them more questions. But thank you so much to all of you and to our panelists, the three presenters. Atia, thank you so much for your presentation too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, this was a very important panel discussion. So we're gonna need more workshops with the university, maybe a 1 day or 2 day workshop to go into greater depth with all these issues. We really need to solve these problems. And then now we're going to continue with the program. So from the morning until now, we've had presentations, speeches, we've learned a lot, we've actually gained so much knowledge. And now we're going to have Dr. Mayepa, who's going to conclude for us and give us the way forward. We welcome you for your presentation.
Just a quick note again for those VTCs present here, they haven't yet signed the attendance list. If anybody hasn't signed the attendance list, please come to Trelimpilo. She's got the list here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director Olga and Mr. Toka, for really directing the program for us today. I'm not going to be summarizing each and every presentation that was made this morning. I'm just going to highlight the important, the key points that we have to take home. As we have listened this morning, there is a need for original works to be published in indigenous languages. So let us not assume that everything should be translated from the English to the other indigenous languages. So translation and interpreting is also a creative profession that requires expertise and flexibility to convey the intended message. I think the presenter here was just stressing the fact that, if you are not an expert in the study field or in the subject matter, at least try and work with somebody who is an expert in that. We are glad also to hear from SALPIC that there are new developments to regulate the profession that will assist with protecting and developing language practitioners in all events. And also, colleagues, there is a need to focus on the unique challenges of South African Sign Language translation and interpreting as a new official language that has not received enough attention to date. OIT also touched on the importance of us having the deaf interpreters. And you must not really think this is an expensive exercise to do. We should really, really think of doing that, because it's important as South Africa to have more and more deaf interpreters, because they at least understand the deaf culture. They at least understand how to interpret to their fellow deaf community member. And from what has been said, with all the recommendations, with all the challenges that have been mentioned for the interpreters, especially for the South African Sign Language, we see there is a need for Pansalb and the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, that we need to have a workshop, and the sooner we have that, the better, wherein we'll have the deaf community members and the South African Sign Language and deaf interpreters in one house. We know due to financial constraints, we might have to do that online, and we know there are technical glitches, especially when we have to have, online events for the deaf community, but we'll see how best we can, meet each other halfway in this one, so that we organize that workshop to come up with the criteria that is being spoken of, guiding the deaf community and the interpreters in terms of, the code of ethics. As you can hear, that this has been influenced by the European countries. So let us try and prioritize that as the government department. And yeah, that is what I've managed to capture in terms of the way forward and the recommendations that were made here today. And unfortunately, Mr. Toga is also, hijacking me here, and says I must also do the closure and vote of thanks because our colleague, Mr. Ngobo, has not been able to make it with us today. So let me also take this opportunity, first and foremost, to thank you, Prof. Alice Lil. The first time when you approached her for this partnership, myself together with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, she was so excited, and since that day, even when she was on leave, she was responding to our emails. So it has been a very smooth partnership that we've had with you, Prof, together with your team, Dr. Dlala and others that have been in the team for organizing this. Let me also thank Osis Ketue Mare and Dade Peter, I think he has left, for, taking time out of your busy schedule to come and be with us here today, together with Osis Thelma Kotze. She has also left. We really appreciate, not forgetting our panelists, all the panel members. There's a lot of them, as you can see on our program. I'm not gonna go through all the names. We really appreciate. And our interpreters for the day, thank you very much, ladies. You did a sterling job. We know how difficult it is to do this, but we really appreciate. Lastly, the team from Pansalb, Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation, thank you very much, colleagues. You really did a wonderful job. Dr. Linden, please keep it up. You've been the driver for this project from day one. And I was not even, going around the bush when I said, I'm going to make you the project leader for this one. And I knew you were going to do it 100% as you've done today. We really appreciate. Colleagues, time is not on our side. People are rushing the traffic. Thank you very much for a wonderful day. Have the best afternoon.
Can I just have there are our panelists, I see one leaving, and our guests, and our speakers. We have something small to say thank you. Uphu cameraman akekho? Uhambile? Weye madoda. We have vouchers. Maybe we should stand here in front of the podium. Siyabonga mama. Roribu. Can I have the, sorry, Shulan, bring me that, right there, thank you. Yes. Make it, you've made us worried about. Nah. Then can I also have, sorry, who else is on your list, Lani? Yes, Dr. Kalimpilo. Dlala. Roribu. ulanga siyamdlula ingane yasekhaya ulanga sebenze naye she's ours, that one, so we might ask her to declare tomorrow and she will not be able to declare. Can I have Mr. Dennis Mhlanga? And then can we have Miss Etha Shikile? She's still here? Thank you. That's Nakent. And can we have Miss Bongile Koza? Siyabonga mama. Akekho cameraman. Akekho. Uhambile. Can I have Mr. Asanda Mzizi? Asanda? No, thank you. Ubuyile manje. Aw. Thank you. Can we then have Miss Londiwe Mapumulo? Thank you very much. Can we have Miss Andy Swa? She left. Can I have Miss Atia? Gone. Someone can fetch for her? Okay. No, it's fine. Oh, you gave them? All right, thank you very much. So can I also have, Shulan, you ran away from me. And I need your guidance on your gifts. I'm sure we have to give, we had one for Tate Dante Langit. And not panelists, but he was one of the speakers, including Ms. Thelma Kotze and Mr. Peter Mehwe. They've all left. Did you give them? No. Okay, we'll make arrangements. Yes. All right. Okay. Can we? Can we have a Prof. Lee? Yes. Yes, of course. Hi, Rodiwu. What to come this side? Thank you. Who did I leave out? Dokotela? Did I leave her out? Yes. No, I'm not going to leave her out. I still have one. So you're going to appear twice on the photos. You're going to declare twice. miss someone? The chairs of the panels I've given to one. Where's the other chair is online. And there's another chair. Solani is on Shaisang abantu nina. It's just one. It's coming. Yeah. All right. Hold. You're welcome. Take it. Thank you. Rodibua. Nah. Oh, what a group photo, ne?
And also, please, ladies and gentlemen, follow us on Facebook. Please, 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 Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Please, you'll find the details on the program, Assembly. Do it now. It's just a matter of click, click.
Can we also have a round of applause to our wonderful IT team at the back?